Hello and welcome to the For the Fans podcast here on Labor Day Monday night. My name is Justin Melillo, and for the first time since we started doing this, I cannot say alongside is Kevin McAdams. Unfortunately, Kevin is unable to make tonight's show. He's dealing with the hurricane being down in the southeast, and so, going to be thinking about Kevin, going to be thinking about everybody down there as they go and figure out and deal with everything going on down there. But welcome, everybody, to tonight's show. It's episode number 17 since we started doing this. It's going to be a fun one. We're going to talk some throwback. We're going to talk about the Cup race and the Xfinity race. We're also going to talk about the IndyCar race that was in Portland. We'll talk a little bit of iRacing, and we'll talk some more topics that are part of the show tonight. So before I get started, just give you guys a brief recap of my week. It's been a hectic one, for sure. Mainly my own fault, because I fell off the wagon. Not as far as not drinking alcohol. I'm still going good with that. I'm still sober since last year, so still keeping up with that. But I did fall off the wagon of World of Warcraft. I haven't played that since I was probably 18 or 19 years old, so over a decade ago. And yeah, I'm back on that now. WoW Classic was released last week, and that has pretty much taken up most of my time, including during parts of the races. So I went back, I watched a lot of it. I got some pretty good insight on what went on this weekend. So without further ado, let's get the show on the road. And we'll do it a little bit differently this week. Normally, Kevin and I will go with the Truck Series, and then the Xfinity Series, and then the Cup Series. We'll start right off with the big story of the weekend. Cup Series at Darlington, throwback weekend. Erik Jones pulling it into victory lane. The first article I have in front of you all is by Kyle McFadden from the Racing Experts. Erik Jones put it all together to win the Southern 500 this weekend. It was a rain-delayed event. They didn't get going until very late, almost 10 o'clock p.m. before they got the green flag. Actually, it might have been a little bit after 10 o'clock, but, with the whole weather situation, with the whole hurricane and everything in the southeast of the United States going wonky, they had a squall, they had another squall, they had to get the track dried, and it's been different all year this year with whether they're going to call it, whether they're going to not call it or try to hold out. We remember back to Daytona, they didn't want to wait it out. Even though Daytona has lights, they didn't wait it out. Justin Haley was the winner. They called the race early. They could have probably went going later on, but the race was already official and they decided not to. This race didn't even get going yet. They hadn't even done the driver introductions at that point, and they ended up doing it a little bit later. I'm going to assume that they held out for the possibility that the hurricane could affect the weekend or the beginning of the week if they would have, done it tonight or done it earlier in the day today. So I'm glad they got it going. It was a late night. The race didn't get done until almost 2 a.m. And when it was all said and done, it was Erik Jones in victory lane. Erik Jones has been pretty competitive this season, but his teammates have just been outshining him all year. The three of them have 4 wins apiece. Martin Truex Jr., Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch. All of them have 4 wins. Erik Jones hasn't had a single one until this race. And Erik Jones goes out there. He holds off Kyle Larson. He holds off his teammate Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch, he had an interesting finish to that race where with about 2 laps to go, maybe a lap and a half, his tire let out, he hit the wall, he ended up wall riding all the way around until the checkered flag, still ended up with a 3rd place finish. Still ended up with the regular season championship, which we'll get to in a moment. But it was all about Eric Jones on Sunday night or Monday morning, depending on your time zone. He definitely, looking at the results of the race, looking at the lap leaders, he wasn't really, there until the later stages of the race. You look at it, it was, at the beginning, it was Brad Keselowski versus William Byron. Then Kurt Busch got involved. Chase Elliott was kind of there. Kyle Larson got up there. And then it wasn't until lap 283 when Eric Jones finally took the lead. Just about 80 laps to go. Just over 80 laps to go. You had a couple cautions here and there. But it went green pretty much from the time Eric Jones took the lead until he ended up winning the race. So he was there at the end when it mattered. He won the race. He's a winner in the series. He's locked into the championship. And looking at the championship, pretty much it's going to come down to the last two spots and these four drivers right here. Clint Bowyer, Daniel Suarez, Ryan Newman, Jimmy Johnson. Everybody else is locked in. They don't have to worry about anything else going into the final race of the regular season at Indianapolis. And Kyle Busch doesn't have to worry about anything either because he's locked up those 15 bonus points and he will be the regular season champion. But looking at the bubble, Clint Bowyer and Daniel Suarez currently in, Ryan Newman and Jimmy Johnson currently out. Daniel Suarez and Ryan Newman got into it on Sunday night. Daniel Suarez Ryan Newman is really one tough guy to pass, and Daniel Suarez put the bumper to him or put the air to him and spun Newman out. Newman didn't have that great of a finish. Suarez had a much better finish, but Newman ended up with a 23rd place finish. Forget where Suarez was. I think he was in the top. He was in 11th, actually. So definitely that's what closed the gap. I mean, coming into tonight, Newman was 15th in the standings. Now he's 17th. He's tied for 16th. He's the first man out in all technicality. But like I said, it was Kyle Busch who claimed the regular season championship. He's had a hell of a year. A lot of people want to say that he's in kind of a slump right now, but he's more competitive than anyone else out there on the track. He's a threat to win every week, and even though he's not winning right now, he's still getting a hell of a lot of points, and he's having a lot better, time right now than his competition for the regular season championship was, and that was Joey Logano. Logano's had, if anybody's in a slump, it's been Joey Logano. Joey Logano kind of fell off the face of the earth since his last win at Michigan. Kyle Busch, he hasn't really won either, but he's been up there enough to not only take that lead back, but grow upon it and now clinch that regular season championship. So, Kyle Busch going into the playoffs with a guaranteed extra 15 bonus points. He can get another 7 at Indianapolis if he were to go out and sweep both the stages and win the race. He's already got a hell of a lot of bonus points as it is. I don't think I have that in front of me. Let's see, standings. I can pull up the standings here. He has 30 playoff points before the 15, so he'll go into the playoffs with a guaranteed 45 playoff points, which is a pretty substantial amount when you look at the rest of the field. I mean, Joey Logano, he'll get another 10, so he'll go in guaranteed. It looks like a guaranteed 27. Denny Hamlin looks like he's going to be fighting for 8 between Kevin Harvick, Martin Truex, and just those three are going to be fighting for the 8, 7, and 6. Keselowski will be looking to get 5 bonus points. He's pretty much in a league of his own. Kurt Busch, he'll be fighting for 4 with Chase Elliott. One of those two will get 4. One of those two will get 3. And then Kyle Larson, Ryan Blaney, and kind of sort of Alex Bowman and Eric Jones and William Byron and Aric Almirola could end up with 2 or 1 bonus points depending on how their Indianapolis were to go next week. Indianapolis is the regular season finale. We'll see how that all plays out. Right now, it's Jimmy Johnson on the outside looking in by 18 points. Ryan Newman also on the outside, but he's tied for that final spot. If he outpoints Suarez in that final race, Newman will be in, Suarez will be out, and then vice versa if Suarez were to outpoint him. And then Clint Bowyer's he doesn't have that big of a cushion either. He's only got 8 points. So, honestly, it could be any two of those four going in. Or, Paul Menard, he's won in Indianapolis before. He could mix things up by getting a win. Matt DiBenedetto, he's on a tear lately. He could surprise us and get a victory. We all know Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and Austin Dillon. They're known winners in the series. Anything could happen at Indianapolis. We saw a couple of years ago Casey Kane get his final victory in the series by winning at Indianapolis and getting into the playoffs. It wasn't the regular season finale at the time, but anything is possible. I'm sure it's going to be a wild one. I look forward to it. A little bit of news with the Cup Series that was released today by Adam Stern. The NASCAR Cup Series, it's currently the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series, is working on a new sponsorship model. We've known this for a while now. We've known that they're going to have a new sponsorship model, but we kind of got a little bit of insight into what we might be seeing in the near future. NASCAR is in advanced talks right now with several companies, it says in this tweet. We're looking at brands that have been in the sport already. Coke, Geico, Comcast, Monster. I'm not sure what AB is, honestly. But they're also trying to... I heard this maybe last week or a week ago, or 2 weeks ago, that is. But they're also trying to get a wireless company back into it. Like we had Sprint for the longest time. They're trying to get another, wireless company back in, whether it's Verizon, whether it's T-Mobile. I don't think AT&T was part of the plans, but I do think it's between Verizon and T-Mobile from what I heard from Adam Stern on his appearance on SiriusXM NASCAR. I believe that was earlier in the week last week. So I'm looking forward to how this all plays out. It doesn't look like we're going to have a specific title sponsorship, which is going to be different. Because we've had the Winston Cup, we've had the Nextel Cup, we've had the Sprint Nextel Cup, then the Sprint Cup, now the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup. So with it going to be still probably in the lower series, the NASCAR Xfinity Series and the NASCAR Gander Outdoors Truck Series, now we just have the NASCAR Cup Series. And it's a little bit weird to not think that there's going to be a title sponsorship on that. But I'm interested to see how it's going to roll out, honestly. I'm very intrigued by the thought of their different sponsorship model and how that's going to play in to how we view the races in the upcoming season and going forward. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Intrigued by this. I will definitely follow up on it when we get more information. But let's move on to the race that was the day before, and that was the Xfinity Series. The Xfinity Series was also at Darlington, and it was a little bit controversial because the winner of the race, or rather the guy who crossed the start-finish line first, was Denny Hamlin, but he was disqualified post-race. His car did not meet the minimum height requirements, and he was disqualified, and second place was given the victory and all the benefits of the victory. That was Cole Custer. He was driving a Buckshot Jones throwback. Really brought back some memories. I really do miss the 90s. It's not just the title. I grew up in the 90s, damn it. And Buckshot Jones was a staple of the 90s. The Aquafresh car, all the different shades of colors that he used to race that car in. My dad even remembered Buckshot Jones. not for good reasons or anything like that. He's like, isn't that the guy that always crashed? Well, he didn't have that great of a Cup Series career. He didn't have that great of a NASCAR career, but he was an iconic figure, and he has an iconic name, Buckshot Jones. His paint scheme adorned on the 00 of Cole Custer. And Cole Custer was given the victory after Hamlin's disqualification. Hamlin started pretty much last. And his car was so fast, it got up to the front, like, in no time. He really did have the fastest car, and I will honestly say, and even Cole Custer said, that he doesn't think it made a difference that the car had the ride hat thing. And I've talked about it so much this year, that the ride height rule, why they don't have it for Cup, but they do have it for the Xfinity Series and the Truck Series, it makes absolutely no sense to me, because these vehicles will slam to the ground. They'll already be as low as they possibly can be, but they need to spend money to create the technology to have them rise up at the end of the race, where the Cup Series doesn't have to worry about that. They don't have to spend the money, so it's probably cheaper in that sense to be not having the rule like the Cup Series, and yet the Xfinity and the trucks need to figure out how to slam them to get them, glued to the track and then have them rise up at the end of the race. It just hasn't made any sense to me. I'm sure NASCAR could explain it, if they were asked why, but nobody seems to want to ask why. Or if they do ask why, they really don't give, a proper answer on it. But, yeah, Denny Hamlin, failed inspection, won that race, if he would have kept that victory, he would have had a 2.5 average finish in, I want to say, his career or in the last, handful of races at Darlington, which is an insane number. But it was Cole Custer in victory, or he actually wasn't in victory lane, but they did, he tweeted it out. They took the car back out and they celebrated. It was a good time for Cole Custer. I'm sure now that he has 6 wins on the season, he ties Christopher Bell again. So now it's Bell and it's Custer with 6 wins, and Reddick has 4 wins. But Reddick's leading the points right now. It really is the big three. I mentioned it to Kevin in the group that we're in, that it was really cool. Oh, I never changed over the thing. I'm sorry, everybody. We'll put that ticker on so you can see the results of the Xfinity Series. I was just going to talk about that. That's why I remembered. You had Denny Hamlin up front, and he's arguably the hottest driver in the Cup Series right now, having come off his 4th win a couple weeks ago at Bristol. He got involved in that wreck, yes, but at the time, Denny was on fire in the Xfinity Series, and he was back in victory lane again. So you had Denny Hamlin up front, then you had Cole Custer, then you had Tyler Reddick, then you had Ryan Blaney, another Cup Series playoff driver. He's in the playoffs. Then you had Christopher Bell, and then you had Dale Jr. Dale Jr. comes home in 5th. Or he originally came home in 6th, but after the penalty, he comes home in 5th. It's big three, Cup guy, big 3, former Cup guy, and then the rest of the field. And if they would have given Denny the win, it would have been Cup guy. So these 3 drivers, we've talked about it for many, many weeks. They are ready to go to the Cup Series. Tyler Reddick, Christopher Bell, Cole Custer, they've won 16 races so far this season. 16 races. They've run 24 races altogether. And these guys have won 2/3 of the races this season. And they get Cup guys in. Kyle Busch has run his share of races. You've had Ryan Blaney in his share of races. You've had Paul Menard in a couple races. You've had Brad Keselowski, Joey Logano. it's not like these guys are going up against Cup guys every week, because there are a lot of weeks that there haven't been Cup guys, like the Dash for Cash races, like the standalone events. Granted, at Road America last week, you did have a Cup guy, Matt DiBenedetto, in the field. But it really is something that Reddick, Bell, Custer, they're going up against the best. They are the best in the series. They've got, they've really got a handle on the series, and all three of them are ready for Cup. I'm sorry, it's going to be an absolute shame if the three of them don't go in together. Tyler Reddick, RCR's got to make something happen for him. And I don't want to see it at the expense of Daniel Hemrick. But not for nothing, what has Hemrick done in his career? He hasn't won in the trucks. He hasn't won in Xfinity. He got up to the Cup Series, and I wasn't ever expecting him to win in the Cup Series. No. And, he's doing okay. He's not lighting the world on fire. He's 25th in points, which is ahead of the other rookie, Ryan Preece, who's 26th in points. And then the other rookie after that is Matt Tifft, who's 31st in points. So, none of the rookies are really lighting the world on fire. Ryan Preece has wins in the Xfinity Series, and he's below Hemrick. Hemrick's made the Final Four in a couple of, seasons. So, Daniel Hemrick, he's a good driver. He just, if I'm gonna be sad if it's Tyler Reddick taking over that car and Daniel Hemrick out of a ride, but I will totally understand it. Christopher Bell, he's going to Cup. We know this already. Whether he's going to the 20 or the 95, that's still it remains to be seen. And from what comments we've heard in the last 24 hours from Coach Gibbs, we know that Eric Jones has a contract with Gibbs. Whether it's to be back in the 20 or if it's to move over to the 95, we'll find out. Same with Bell. If Jones stays in the 20, Bell's to the 95. If Bell gets put in the 20, we'll see Jones in the 95. Either way, they're both going to be racing under the Toyota banner and have a contract with Gibbs. So, Bell, we already know who's moving up. Cole Custer, I'm sorry to say, but he's probably going to have the hardest time. And I said this a couple of shows ago. He's got the Stewart-Haas connection. And right now, unless they're going to get rid of Clint Bowyer, which right now Clint Bowyer is in the playoffs, I don't see them giving up a seat for any of their four drivers for Cole Custer. There is a seat open in the front row camp now that David Reagan is retiring. That is a possibility. You never know. It could also be a place where Matt DiBenedetto lands. I would hate it if these three, the big three in the Xfinity Series, don't all move up together and compete against each other for the Rookie of the Year next season in 2020. Because I feel like that would be not only a great story for all three of them, but it would be, it's like the future moving up all together at once. And, it would almost remind me of when Dale Jr. and Matt Kenseth moved up together and ran against each other for the rookie battle. Or when it was Jimmy Johnson and Ryan Newman going against each other. I know, it's like iconic names coming up together. These are the next three iconic names, in my opinion. They're all three of them are fantastic drivers. I'm gonna be really sad if it doesn't happen. The other big story from the Xfinity Series this weekend was Dale Jr. Dale Jr. he's had a hell of a couple of weeks. And as I said last week, as I said the week before, it is so awesome that him and his family are all okay. All those pilots, his dog even, in that plane crash. And it's even more awesome that he was okay enough to say, hell yeah, I'm racing. He got in that car. And who would have thought that he would have finished anywhere in the top 5? You know, after everything he's been through in the last couple weeks, I wasn't expecting anything from Dale Jr. And he gives us a top 5 finish at Darlington. Arguably the hardest race of any series, whether it's Xfinity or Cup. It's got to be one of the hardest races of the season. And not for nothing, these Xfinity guys are racing in the heat, in the sun. And Dale Jr. goes in there. He qualified 14th. That was, wasn't great, but it was decent. I wasn't expecting too much from him, honestly. And he goes in there, and he originally crosses the line in 6th, but after the penalty, comes home with a top 5 finish. He brought his family. It was lovely to see them at the track. And he just, Dale Jr. is good for NASCAR. And as long as he wants to keep racing in NASCAR, he should keep doing it. I don't know if he's ever going to win another race again, running one race a season. And I don't care. He lit up the stands when he got out of the car. He said, "I want to thank my dad." Everything that Dale Jr. does and everything that he says, and in working in the broadcast booth now with NBC, no, he's not running full time anymore. And, that is a shame because he was the most popular driver for so long. And I know the sport is definitely taking some sort of a hit from it. But he comes back once a year and he has performances like Richmond last year and Darlington this year. And who knows where he'll be next year. But he'll probably be in a car somewhere next year for his team. And it was cool to see him in the 8 again. All those years of running the 8 for DEI. And now he owns the 8 car for Junior Motorsports. And he gets to throw back to his dad's old car. Dale Jr.'s the man. And really glad that he was able to race. Really glad that he's feeling better. And I'm looking forward to his podcasts and his broadcasts moving forward. Just want to bring that up. Another cool thing about this weekend, Will Power won. That's right. Will Power. He is my favorite driver of the IndyCar Series, no doubt. I saw him win at Indianapolis last year. Really cool to see it. He won at Pocono a couple weeks ago in the rain-shortened race. He had a rough week at Gateway. I think he finished last. This week, he comes to Portland. I don't think he was the fastest car. I think Scott Dixon was the fastest car. But Power ends up winning. Gets another victory. He's not going for the championship this year, unfortunately. He's just had too much bad luck. But Will Power ends up winning. He holds off Felix Rosenqvist in the closing laps. They had a caution when I think it was Santina Ferrucci had some type of failure and ended up parking his car on the front stretch. It was a really good day for Joseph Newgarden. He's leading the points right now, being that Scott Dixon finished in 16th. That's not too good for him. So yeah, IndyCar was a fun time in Portland. They got one more race left this season. They're going to be at Laguna Seca in a couple weeks. They're going to do double points, which, could you imagine if they did double points in any of the NASCAR races? Fans would lose their minds. They already hate the playoffs. They already hate a lot of what NASCAR's done. But double points, forget about it. People would swear off NASCAR like that. It'd be absolutely insane. I'm looking at it here. I'm a half hour in, and I pretty much talked about all the topics I wanted to talk about. This is tough, everyone. This is absolutely tough to do a show by yourself. I am not gonna lie. I've been talking for pretty much 30 minutes straight. My throat is getting a little sore. I hope you're all enjoying it. If you want to tune in, or you want to chime in rather, definitely leave a comment in the comment section, and I'm looking over to it, and I'll definitely respond if you got any questions or comments or anything you want to talk about, anything you want me to talk about. I'm going to be on until 11 probably. So, I had one more thing I wanted to talk about on my list here, and that is e-racing, e-NASCAR, e-sports. Let me get to it. So, the Peak Antifreeze series, they got a lot of good things going on for them lately. They had their throwback weekend this past week at Darlington Raceway, the virtual Darlington Raceway. And it was the first race of the playoffs. They get a 3-race playoff and then a 1-race championship, just like the big guys do in the Monster Energy Cup Series, just like in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, just like in the Gander Outdoors Truck Series. The Peak Antifreeze Series on the computer, they get a playoff. They get only one. They get 2 rounds. They get the playoff round of 3 races. They go to Darlington. They're going to go to Indianapolis. And then they're going to go to the Roval. And then they'll wrap it all up in Homestead. So, I'll get to the cool news in a second. But the winner at Throwback Race at Darlington was Ashton Crowder. And he absolutely went out and stole that race away from some of the playoff guys. Crowder's not a playoff driver. He hasn't had the greatest season. It's his first season. It's his rookie season. And Crowder hasn't had the best of luck so far. It's really cool, though, that he got the first win for Burton Kligerman Esports. Him and his teammate Logan Clampett have been trying all season to get them one. And their team owners are Jeff Burton and Parker Kligerman, who are really involved in this e-NASCAR business. So it was really cool to see them finally get a win. Crowder was able to hold off Zach Novak, who's won many, many times this season. And if Novak would have passed him and won, Novak would be locked into the championship race already. But because Crowder went out and took that win away, now all 8 drivers have to keep fighting when they go to Indianapolis. If any of them win at Indianapolis, they'll lock in. But if we have another non-playoff driver win in Indianapolis, we're going to go down to the Roval. And all 8 drivers, none of them are going to be locked in yet. It's going to be mayhem. For the most part, it was Keegan Leahy. He was pretty dominant for most of the race. He took the lead early from Michael Conti, and Conti kind of fell back pretty early. He didn't really have the right setup. Leahy was very competitive. Playoff drivers did have some issues, like Jimmy Mullis. He crashed pretty hard. Then a couple more of the playoff guys. Blake Reynolds, who was on our show last week. He got involved in this melee here with Ryan Luza was involved. I said Blake was involved. Who else? Bobby Zelensky was involved. And a bunch of other guys like Cody Bias, Nick Ottinger. It looks like back there Michael Guest was involved. Ray Alfala flew in this one. He did a barrel roll. It was not a good time for Ray. I think Ray's still 20th in the points, though, so he's still in the good to stay above the cut line for not having to do the Pro Series next year. After the couple of wrecks, it ended up being Crowder up front, Chris Overland, and Ben Nelson. not for nothing, it's three guys I didn't expect to be up there. Not saying anything about any of their talent levels or anything like that. They just haven't been having the best season. All three of them have not had the best season. They're all proven winners out there. They're just not having the best 2019 season in the Peak Series. And the three of them were up there, and they were all battling it out. Overland, he lost in a photo finish a couple weeks ago. So Overland's been having some good strategy calls to get himself up there. Ben Nelson, he runs the VR setup, which is pretty cool when they throw it to him during the broadcasts. Novak ended up being the top guy in the championship, so he'll have the points lead heading into Indianapolis. Right now, it's Novak, Keegan Leahy, Michael Conti, and Ryan Luza, who are the four guys currently on points. Meanwhile, it's Garrett Lowe, Bobby Zelensky, Jimmy Mullis, and Blake Reynolds, who are below the cut line. But like I said before, any of them win, they make it in. So I'm sure all 8 of them will be doing their best to go out and win at Indianapolis on not this Tuesday night, but I think it's next Tuesday night. So it's September 10th. So what's today? Today's the 2nd. Yeah, it'll be next Tuesday. Crowder went on. Like I said, he ended up winning. And that wasn't the only race that these guys had this week. They also had another televised event. And I don't have anything written about that one. But they raced... The first time they had a televised event, they were on NBCSN. It was during NASCAR America. And Nick Ottinger went out there and won that race. It was at Iowa Speedway. They brought Cup cars to Iowa, which has never been done before in real life. So what did they do this time? They brought Cup cars back to Rockingham. The new car, the 2019 car, at Rockingham Speedway, a track that they haven't been to in over a decade. And I want to say the last time that the Cup Series ran at Rockingham, I think it was Matt Kenseth who won. And sure enough, it was another Roush Fenway car winning this week, or this past race at Rockingham on the televised event on NBCSN on NASCAR America. It was Zach Novak, who finished second on Tuesday. He had a little bit of redemption, although it is technically, quote-unquote, an all-star race. So there's no point values or anything like that. It's just you're going out there and you go out there to win. And you get to say that you won a race on live television. There's not any points or anything like that. But it was just really cool that a Roush Fenway guy ended up winning. So that's not going to be the last time they're going to be on television. They did announce during the broadcast that they will be going back to the television for the season finale at Homestead. Now, they moved the race. Normally, the races are on Tuesday, and they're at 9 p.m. They're going to be moving this one to Thursday. And I don't know if a time has been set, but I can only imagine that it's going to be at the same time as NASCAR America normally would be. Or at least in that general vicinity. Which might mess a couple of these guys up. You never know. That they're probably going to have to take off from work, or, because these guys are professional esports drivers. They are professional eNASCAR drivers, but, there's money in here, but there's not enough money to sustain yourself on. So a lot of these guys have second jobs, and it might be a little bit difficult for, trying to move a shift that they normally work on Thursday to another day. I know I'm probably going to have some issues. Actually, no, I won't have any issues. I'll be in Talladega. So I actually won't have any issues with that. I'm just going to have to figure out how to get it on my laptop so I can cover that for you all. But, yeah, season finale, live on NBCSN. Don't miss it. Hopefully if they haven't announced the time yet, hopefully they announce it soon. It's going to be on October 10th on Thursday. Go watch it. I mean, I grew up in sim racing for the most part. A lot of my friends that I have now are people I met through sim racing. And it's just really cool to me to see what this has evolved into. And I feel like I say this every week, but it is so damn cool that people that I've raced against, people that I've looked up to in the sim racing world, they're going to go and compete on the highest level of sim racing on national television. That is so cool. I'm looking forward to it a lot. I think they're going to put on a good show. I don't see why they wouldn't. And then stay tuned, because either the day after that or on that weekend I'll be talking to a couple of the guys that race full time, and I'll be able to get their almost immediate reactions from the championship finale at Talladega, because I'll be covering that for TRE. So, what's the time? Wow, it's only 10:42. I'm looking at what I got here. I've covered pretty much everything I wanted to cover. I didn't really get a lot of feedback from y'all, so I'm probably gonna cut this a little bit short here. It was fun. It was different to do it by myself. Definitely, I talked for 42 minutes, pretty much, by myself. Normally I have Kevin to bounce off of, and we'll bounce out ideas off of each other. And like I said at the beginning of the show, I'm really, going to be thinking about him, thinking about everybody down there in that part of the country, and hopefully the storm isn't too bad, and hopefully it just ends up, minimal damage and all that stuff. Weather's scary. It's scary out there. But yeah, it's been a fun episode, guys. Thanks everybody for tuning in. This week, as I already mentioned, they're going to Indianapolis. It'll be interesting to see what happens. It'll be the regular season finale. I'm looking forward to it. Should be a fun one. So, Indianapolis, and then they'll start their playoffs at Las Vegas. We had off this weekend for FTF for the NR League, so that was a much needed break. I'm looking at the time here, and I'm done a lot earlier than I normally am. So thank you all for watching along. You can catch this episode on YouTube. I'll have it up on YouTube at some point tomorrow. I'll also have it up on our streaming services on Apple, on Google Play, on Spotify. And that's about it. I think I made it 45 minutes. It's not terrible. So, thank you all for tuning in for like the 5th time. My name is Justin Melillo. This has been the For the Fans podcast. We'll see you next week. Talking Indianapolis. Hopefully Kevin's here. Until next time, have a good night and goodbye.